Hi, my name is Laura Sheffield. I am doing this show. This is our second one, and it is called How Much is Too Much? We're part of this series now on parenting, where our last one, if you missed it, oh my gosh, go back and listen. It's on gentle parenting, where we just wanted to tackle the subject and talk to everybody about what gentle parenting was, and hopefully give you some tools to navigate parenting your children biblically in this day and age. So this show, How Much is Too Much? I'm sure all of you live not similarly to us. I know every household is different, but in America and in some other countries, we might think that it is just normal to live like we live in a train station. Everyone's coming and going. You might say hi real quick. There doesn't seem to be a lot of slow or stop even, like putting on the brakes. And so lately, as I've been thinking about this and praying on this subject, I was thinking about it regarding children. The phrase kept coming up as I was looking at things and kind of trying to read about it, and even just looking at videos on what happened to childhood. What happened to children that had a childhood that was different from a lot of the ones that we might see now? Well, and as much as I do know, there are many parents fighting against this, that give their children screen time, that play with them and take them to the beach and they play outside. I just, heard of someone yesterday that their nephew, he rides his bike all around, San Clemente, where he lives. All of those things are good things. But I want to get to the core of the actual question of how much is too much? And when I talk about that, I just mean, are kids even kids anymore? Kids seem to have as busy of a schedule as adults. And when you look at that into comparison of kids in the 70s, the 80s, prior to that, where kids just went outside, they weren't over-scheduled, over-committed, I'm gonna use buzzwords right now, stressed. They weren't stressed. You didn't hear that kids have had anxiety or depression. Why? Why do kids in this day and age that we're living in, why are they struggling with anxiety and depression? Did you hear of that 50 years ago? There's always been trauma. There's always been things in households that have been dark or not living on how God would want families to live. But what I am talking about right now is, does your house reflect God? Does your house have a heartbeat that actually has children that are happy and healthy and thriving, that they go outside and run around or have free time? This is something I thought about maybe 10 years ago. There was many parents that I talked to, some that whether they'd come to me for advice, or there was the thing that Matt and I did at church years ago that was talking about social media wisdom for parents. And some of those parents then said, gosh, we just wish our kids had more free time. And I thought, then give it to them. Like, take something off of the schedule. And then years ago, there was a message, I can't remember the exact name of it, but I do remember Tom Mercer at High Desert Church talking about margin. And I always think about that. I always think about when you have lined paper, even like what's right in front of me, do you have wiggle room in your schedule with your family and with your children? Or is it so jam-packed that your kids are so exhausted that they might be acting up? Another one these days is a lot of parents don't have time to potty train their children because they're so busy and overcommitted that there's not that time to put them on the toilet every hour, every half hour, but have a cute little sticker chart or whatever they're doing. So there's many things that are lacking in this type of family, in this type of way that we have kind of just gotten to, like we've all gotten to it as a society and a culture and not really questioned it. So that's what I want to ask you today is, how much is too much? So I have a lot of questions. I remember Jeremy Camp, my husband, I've listened to him forever, a worship artist. He was like, this song is just a bunch of questions. And that's what I was thinking for this show. Like, I want to ask, can we get it back? Can we get back schedules that aren't so overcommitted? Are there things that we can take off our plate Would it be possible to bring family dinners back? Could we read with our children more? Could couples sit outside and they talk and then the kids just play? There's a book that I'm reading right now called Their Turquoise Table. And her main point in this book is that she wanted to put a turquoise table in her lawn so there would be more interactions with her neighbors. She wanted to bring things of the past back that she knew that like her grandparents would just sit out on the front porch and everyone would talk. And she really did. And it's an awesome book. I've actually wanted to put a turquoise table on my front lawn since. However, I live where not a ton of traffic goes by. I see some neighbors. So I see that happening in neighborhoods that aren't quite like mine. But the idea of it is bringing back things that were before, simpler. A simpler time. There are some things we definitely can't put back. We can't push back certain technology. All of us have a phone now. A lot of our kids have phones. I know you can, I love this. I follow this page on Instagram called Wait Till 8, and it's talking about waiting to give your kids a phone until 8th grade. I strongly recommend that. My 15-year-old still doesn't have social media. We're pushing that back as long as we could. I've read wait until 16. We did a little bit sooner than we, I think, should have with our daughter. However, it's just having those parameters. So there are some things that we can't push back, but can we talk about it? Can we talk about how much is too much? So I want to ask another question. Does your family seem like they live separate or together? I've heard of many teenagers, because I read a lot of books on teenagers, or even when you talk to them, they don't really have dinner with their family. When I sub and when I teach at different schools, a lot of these kids don't know what they're doing over the weekend. They don't know what they're doing that night. Either they're being dragged to practice, or maybe their parents have plans, or maybe they have sporting things, but they don't know. So that's what I mean. Like, as a family, can you talk to your kids about what your schedule looks like? Can you maybe ask them, like, do you want to play volleyball or are you sick of it? Do you want to, be in karate and piano and guitar lessons? Or is there one that, like, maybe we can just do guitar at home, or maybe your uncle could teach you and you could have that time with him. Like, I think if we had these conversations, it would be a little bit different than every minute of our kids' days being jam-packed. Do you crave more togetherness? That's another question I wanted to ask. I think if you talk to a lot of families these days, I think if you talk to a lot of children, they want to have a close relationship with their parents, but they're just kind of used to how it is. It's more of like, oh, I see him when I see him. They don't really expect that they're having dinner as a family, so they might crave that, but they don't even know what they crave. And so I think they do crave more togetherness. They might crave their parents to say goodnight to them before they go to bed, or to even read them a book or a story, or to ask them some questions, but there's no time. There's just not time. And so I think ask your kids, what would you want to do with me if you had a choice? What would you do if you had the whole day to spend with me? And then see what they say. I did that in the last couple weeks. I didn't really give Sage a choice, but my mom had wanted to do something with each of the kids before they went back, started regular schedule. My 17-year-old Sage got a job, or Silas goes to school. So with Sage, we did the botanical gardens. We went with my Aunt Grace and walked around Claremont. My cousin Erin met us over there. We had ice cream. It was just a cute day. We just called it a girls' day. Did that with my mom. And then I did ask Silas. I said, Grandma wanted to do something. What would you want to do with her before you went back to school? And he said, have her French toast. I thought it was the cutest thing, and now guess what? It's on this show because it was so simple. And then he loves his dog. So he wanted to bring her dog to my mom's house and have them go to the dog park in Rancho. Simple. And so, but because I already create and really do try to create togetherness, I don't really feel like my kids crave it. Sometimes, and I'll be honest and vulnerable, Sage has said she wants like this close relationship with me in a way where I don't say anything when she talks to me. Like, she's just able to tell me something without me looking like I have a judgmental look or that I comment on it. So I've been practicing that because guess what? We're never done. We're never done. Like, we can always grow. We can always learn. We can always improve. And until Jesus comes back, every single day is a new opportunity to improve on these relationships. So if some of these questions so far got you thinking, tune into the rest of the show. Please share the show with others. And please realize that we do want, that's our goal with this show, Mama Bears on Purpose, for you guys to have amazing families. And I think it's possible. I think we can have amazing families this day and age, but it's just about adjusting the way that this culture thinks we should live. This culture, just so you know, wants you to be so busy that you have no time to connect. This culture wants you to be so addicted to your phone that you can't pay attention to those that are in front of you. This culture wants it to be that you're making more money, doing the things, volunteering for everything under the sun. And that way, guess what? You're strapped. At the end of the night, you are just done. I can't tell you how many people that I've heard say, I just can't walk, or I'm just so exhausted, or I'm just this, or there's so many things that I think are making people sick, and a lot of it is a lack of rest. A lot of it is a lack of stopping. A lot of it is a lack of those that are in our family or household. We haven't quite connected with them, and so we're searching for these ways to connect outside of our family. When God wants us to not only connect with Him, but connect with those inside of our family. But we have to allow the time for that. So we live in a busy, overcommitted culture. That is with schedules, that is with commitments, that is with volunteering, that is with plans, that is everything. So I'm not saying don't have plans with your family. I'm not saying your kids can't be in sports. We're not saying they can't, do a club at the school or volunteer. I volunteer at a place near us called the Call for Life Pregnancy Center. I love it. I would be there every day because they need help. We're short on volunteers. If anyone's local and listening to this show and you want to volunteer, we could always use donations. I could be out there every day seeing if churches want to volunteer their resources or other people. I put it out there when I can. I pray about it. I try to have word of mouth in that sense, but I have made it on my own schedule and for my family that I go 2 times a month, 2 Thursdays a month, every other week. And if they need me or if I'm able to, I give more. But for now, and this place where I am, that I still want to be present with my family and, still have ministry at church and all of those things, it's 2 times a month. So I just think we need to think about those things and be cognizant about it with our children, because some of these sports, it's nuts. And it really is. But if they are in a sport that is very busy, do they need to be in another activity? I remember when my youngest, he really just wanted to do football. And I thought, okay, this is what he wants to do. But we had said you can't be in karate anymore because he was in karate. I liked karate. I think it was neat. Like the instructor was really awesome. We were inside. We got to be inside. But I said, we can't do both. Like, not only is it money, but it's too much time. And so those are the type of questions to ask about your family. I remember years ago reading a book called How to Simplify Your Life with Kids. And this family, he said that there would be 1 kid in an activity at a time. Now, to be honest, that's one of those things to take as a grain of salt, because he thought their whole family should go support that kid, and then the next kid could be in something the next season. I don't honestly think that's totally doable, because you are raising your kids simultaneously at the same time. It might not work for 1 kid to just be in something, but it's a great idea in the sense that your family could be together more. So what is that going to look like? Like, do you expect your kids to go if somebody else has a game? They should go to some of the games to support that kid, but it might not work for the whole family to go to every single one, especially if you might have dinner with the rest of the family. Or can you have dinner later so at least everyone can have dinner together? These are things to think about when you sign your family up for things, whatever that might be. It might be a new ministry at church. Okay, so now what time are you going to church? If you're going to serve, are you going to serve every week? Or is it going to be once a week? Or is it going to be twice a week? And if you're going to do that, then it should be that you are still going to church also, but now think about, okay, well, now we need to have a simpler breakfast, muffins we can grab. Can you involve one of your kids, that you make muffins on a Friday to just grab on a Sunday morning because that day is going to be a little busier? And then what do you say yes to? We did a thing years ago, Matt and I, where we would just commit and leave it to the first thing that we got asked to and that we committed to. Like if we RSVP'd or committed. There may be other things that had come up, but we were like, no, and we had to learn this. But we're not going to be doing 2 or 3 things in one day. And especially when we had the kids, like it wasn't going to work for our family, and it wasn't teaching the kids any type of rest, because when we did do that a couple of times, they were just dropping dead in their beds at the end of the night, and it wasn't healthy for anybody. So think about those type of things. If you already have a sporting event in church, it might not work to go to someone's house for a barbecue. You just need to give your kids some downtime. So think about these things. Because I wondered in my next question, do we think about our yeses? A lot of us don't. I'm trying to teach that to my daughter right now. What is your best yes in this situation? Because it's fun to have plans. It's fun to go places. It's fun to go to lunch. It's fun to go to birthday parties. It's fun to go to brunch, go to the beach, go to the museum. Many things in life are fun, but life isn't all about just fun. Like, there's a mentality that I've adopted, and I'm trying to teach that to the kids so they would adopt it. And so my daughter would adopt that in her own household that she runs one day. My sons, I have one out of the house now. But how about you don't have other plans unless things are done at the house that you would want to get done? And I've kind of tried to even show that to my husband, that I'm not trying to say yes to all kinds of things unless I've done certain things he's asked me to do, whether that's, this is an example, so here you go, I'm using it in the show mat. He's been wanting me to sew a button on these shorts and to fix these jeans. And I'd been putting it off because I don't love sewing, I just don't. So then I put other stuff I need to sew too, and then kind of just made myself. And so I was gonna go to the store even before us doing the show today, and I thought, no, I'm not doing these other things unless I have the sewing done. And you could adopt that to anything. Sometimes there will be emergencies. And then sometimes there is just, this is what your day is gonna look like. Like for instance, yesterday, I knew I was gonna go to the hospital, my sister was having surgery. And then I also made it that I visited my grandma because I was already down from where I lived. I'm gonna do these things. That's what it means to not be nutty with your time or schedule. And not that I'm perfect about it all the time, but it's also about thinking about your yeses. Do you take the time to rest as a family? Like, my grandma was such a good example of that, really. But after church on Sundays, it was a nap. You didn't have to sleep, but lay down. You can look at a book. You can, read the Bible from the message that day. But it was like a 1 or 2 hour period of just like resting. And so we've tried to do that. I don't love the TV on a lot. We don't have the TV on a lot. But on Sundays, we'll usually watch a Christian movie. I try to have worship music in our house a lot. I try to have it that it is like a restful environment for the kids. And even if someone else comes to our house, I would hope and pray that they would feel that way. But you have to create it. And you can't create it if you're gone all the time. You just can't. Do you have time to heal? I know even my daughter had surgery in April. She had surgery, a repair surgery on her shoulder. I had to take off a lot of things off my plate because I had to help her. I had to help her shower. I had to help her wash her hair. I had to help her do her, get dressed, get her food. Like, she just couldn't literally move like this for weeks. But imagine if I was like, nope, and I just jam-packed my schedule. I wouldn't even been able to help her heal. Less than 2 months after her surgery, she's playing volleyball in the yard, like doing stuff with her friends. We went on a cruise. She was able to go on the water slides, like do everything that we did when I wasn't sure how the healing would go. But as I think about it now, it was that time that was carved out of really just like the rest and recuperating. And then I have a question based off of this. Do you enjoy your family? It's hard to enjoy people that you have not created these normal things with. Like, if you enjoy someone, you just say, do you want to go with me to the grocery store? I just have to go real quick. Or, hey, let's shoot baskets in the backyard. Or even my oldest, he's out of the house, but a lot of times they will have a meal with us on Sundays after church. And so, but I enjoy that. I enjoy hanging out with them. I just asked him yesterday, hey, are you guys coming? They could just do their own thing sometimes, that's fine. But we enjoy them, and I think they enjoy coming here. But we try to make it that type of environment that they would want to come here. And even Wendy can attest to this, that we invited him and his wife when they came over for dinner one night. But think about this. Do you enjoy your family, hosting projects together, hosting family just because? If you can say no to any of those things, then it might be that your family and your schedule is just too busy. Because if it's too stressful to have anyone over, if it's too stressful to get projects done, if it makes you all anxious and like you can't even imagine shopping, to hosting, to have people over for dinner, or with your own family, to make a couple of nice meals during the week, then you have to think about what type of things you have allowed on your plate, and how could you adjust that a little? God wants us to enjoy life. Like, he wants us to live a structured and like disciplined life and a godly life, but he wants us to enjoy it. He wants us to enjoy our relationships and the people that we surround ourselves with. We should smile and laugh. I just heard a story from one of my best friends yesterday that I saw, was with for a little while, and she'd gone on a road trip with her family, and she just talked about laughing so hard in a restaurant, ketchup spilled all over her mom. And I just thought about that we should be those type of people that our lives are attractive because we are living it with joy. But we should live it with joy with our children and the people that are in our house, but it's not going to happen if we have too much going on all the time. How do we give childhood back? Well, I'm going to tell you some tips that I think, and then you take it or leave it and see what you can actually add into your own family. So I say less plans, more play. And that could just be such a simple thing, and I don't mean don't make plans with this great family, that you met from church. I just mean it might not work that particular weekend that you have your sister's wedding, church already, and something going on for work. It's not going to work that weekend. But yeah, less plans when you already have a lot going on. It might be that you have to say, let's do this, 3 weeks out because we do have a lot going on right now. And then when you adjust things somewhat, you will see what it looks like to have less plans, more play. It might be you can't deep clean or even clean your house to, be with another family. But guess what? You guys can grab pizza and meet at the park and let the kids run around. Less packed schedules. Give your kids chores. Your kids need to learn how to be an active member of your house. They need to learn how to set the table, unload the dishwasher, help your husband fix the sink, hang up a picture, clean the shutters, take out the trash, clean a bathroom. I can't even tell you how many parents I've talked to, their kids don't make their beds and don't do normal things. Feed the animals. Some families don't have animals. I think it has been one of the best things ever that we've always had a dog and we have chickens, because it's part of the kids' chores, but it's also taught them not only to have compassion for people, but for compassion for God's creation and what God's created, but in like just a real way. Like, a chicken died the other day. We have 20 chickens. You wouldn't think that'd be a big deal. But my 15-year-old was like, what happened? He kept asking all these questions about it. And, he was so gentle when he got it out of the coop. And so give your kids chores. Time off screens. I started a thing where I went with a friend and her baby we went to the park and the coffee shop, and I left my phone here. And I told her I did it on purpose just to, not only I don't think I need to be tracked all the time, but I want to teach my kids that we can be in the backyard without screens, that we could be off screens. I want us to go on a hike or go to breakfast and we leave our phones at home. So how could you create that in your house? Just whether it's board games, whether it's going on a walk, but have time off screens. That's how to give childhood back. Family time and time for creativity. Whatever that looks like. What does your family enjoy doing? Do you have a pool? Go in the pool. I am not that great at organized, I don't even know what you call it, volleyball, spike ball, but we still play. I try to get better, and it's still a connection with my kids. So have time to do that. My daughter and I used to sit and do that like adult coloring until I really didn't know what to do with all the pages. But we would still do it. We would put on worship music and then just sit there. It was a great way to just be creative. I had to get out watercolors all the time and just have that blank canvas paper, and we would just paint. So how could you do that as a family? Teaching things, giving childhood back by that. Cooking, cars, sewing, woodworking, whatever that would look like. Lately, I've just made my daughter get in the kitchen with me. To be honest, she's not as drawn to cooking as my daughter-in-law. That's okay. It's just a skill that I want her to not think like, oh my gosh, like it's such a crazy chore, because we have to eat all the time. So last week we did cinnamon rolls, and then what else? Mac and cheese we did. And so it was good, because now I'm kind of like guiding her, and I want it to be like, I told her I want you to do dinner once a week, but it's still the fact that we're together. But you're giving childhood back by those type of things too. Not like teaching them how to have those skills, like those type of life skills. They need to know those things. Do it as a family. I have so many verses for this, but I'm just going to tell you a couple. how to teach to be still. This is like one of my favorite all-time verses, but it's be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. When I think of that, I think of so many things. I think of being in God's presence. I think of just sitting in the backyard and like listening to, the Holy Spirit speak to my heart. But I also think of your family. I really do. I think God doesn't want your family to just be going 24/7. You have no time to study God's word. You have no time to go to church. You have no time to have ministry or to be in your Bible or to just be with your family when you are not still. So I think this verse speaks into what I'm talking about in so many ways. So how could you teach your family to do this? How could you adopt that this week and this month and this year to just be more still in the things that you do? Psalm 33:8 is it's not long, but I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to summarize it. But it's talking about enjoying God's creation. That's what the whole chapter is about, enjoying God's creation. And so I wonder, how could you enjoy God's creation if you're never in it? If you're not outside, if you don't notice a butterfly. I have a garden. This year, it was not the best. Last year was a lot better. Had a lot of squirrels get it this year. But I've been out there with the kids, and when we do get the strawberries or the squash, or when we're out there, we're like seeing, we planted this. But guess what? God created those seeds, and then we talk about it. We see butterflies. Now we decided, because the birds are always out there too, that we were going to put like a bird bath and these different things that God created. Matt did this thing that I was like, well, I kind of helped, but I'll give him some credit. But where we put out blankets and pillows on Monday and stared at the stars, just stared at the stars and put on like a worship song. It was probably like one of my favorite moments by far that's happened lately. It was just one of the neatest things, just to lay out there and look and wonder, like, how many stars are in the sky? Like, this is amazing. We saw like 4 shooting stars. And so I just think about that, enjoying what God made, like enjoying a waterfall, going on a walk. But and one more before I end, and then I'm going to end on this little thing to think about. But John 14:27 says, "Peace I leave you, my peace I give you. I do not give as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." So that's John 14:27. Our houses are supposed to be a place of peace. Jesus gives peace. He is the only source of peace. So have your foundation on God, but know that we cannot operate under being burning at all cylinders, like the candle burning at both ends. That is not a recipe for having a peaceful household. Our houses are supposed to be a place like a sanctuary, a places to rest, restore, places where our kids do feel safe, where they would want to bring their friends, where it wouldn't be that everyone's screaming at each other or going in every which direction. And so how much is too much? Well, I think you would know. If you answered yes to some of these questions that I asked you, if there's not togetherness, and if you don't feel joy, if it's tough to carve that time to eat together or do something fun together, but bring it back. Years ago, I had my boss at church say something that I'll never forget, and I'm going to bring it to your attention, and now you're not going to forget it. If the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. Whew. So think about that this week. Think about what it would look like to bring this peace that Jesus offers into your families. And I pray that you do. Thank you for tuning in, and you are not going to want to miss our 3rd show in our parenting series, which is training kids to be godly in an ungodly culture. It's going to be so good. Like we say in all the shows, please like, share, subscribe, send to anyone that would need this show, anyone that you've heard them say they're frazzled in this last week or month, and know that it is our heart to push you in your relationship with God. And so we pray that this week, and by listening to this show, that you grow. Thank you so much. Bye.